Do you
him in the
homework
corner,
on DA
man. So look, let me
Rothschild?
show you how they did this though. So they get the, so now they start passing laws. These are people that's not into politics. These are people that don't have no doctrines in medicines, but they have enough money to influence. Because now you got enough money, you can put people in office. You can put certain governments in office. You can create the FBI. Guess who funded the creation of the FBI? Rockefeller did. He funded that. That's why it's an agency. He funded that agency. The FBI would not be the FBI without the Rockefeller Foundation family. He funded it. So what he did was he said, look, we're finna put money into the government system. We're going to put money into the school system. Let's create something called the School Education Board. I think it was in 1911. He created the Educational School Board. So everything that you learn from kindergarten all the way into college is actually the Flexner Report. Flexner, Carnegie, and the Rockefeller family came together with a bunch of scientists and a bunch of psychologists, and they said, we're going to create education. So whenever you learn anything in a public school system, you are being taught. You sitting on John D. Rockefeller lap, you acting like he your grandpa, and he giving you game on how he wants you to be ran. Now, check this out. This is his famous quote. He said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of what? Workers. So you go to school to become a worker. Who you working for? The pharmaceutical companies. And so look, now remember, they broke up his companies, right? When they did the antitrust law against him to make him come work for them. And it worked because he started funding them and putting them in office and stuff. Shell's company, guess who owned it? Rockefeller. You know what I'm saying? Procter and Gamble. Guess who owned that? Rockefeller. You know what Procter and Gamble sells? They sell your tomatoes. They sells all your food. It sells all your food. Most of your cereal companies like Fruit Loop and them. Guess who's the back owner of them? Rockefeller. But you see, cereals is one of the number one cancer causing agents to children. You know what I'm saying? The milk and farm industry. Guess who owned the most land in America? The Rockefeller and the Carnegie Foundation. All the foods we eating owned by them. What about your toothpaste that got fluoride in it? Guess who owned most of your toothpaste? Rockefeller. What about the soaps and the shampoos you put in your body that causes you all these types of cancer? Guess who owned it? Rockefeller. Let's talk about the perms. The perms, which causes brain cancer. Guess who owned these things? These are all back. Well, let me not say owned, but when you dig and you find who funded these companies, guess who funded all these companies? The Rockefeller Carnegie Foundation. So they had so much money. And they gave away charity to so many different people, but it was all for the purpose to actually create the educational school board and to penetrate the colleges. That way you went to school to teach pharmacology, and that way when a doctor see a symptom, he don't teach you how to heal. He teach you how to suppress that symptom, and he always have to give you what? A prescription to a medicine. And this medicine, they get a percentage off of everything they sell.
You know what I found wild, man, is that they don't teach doctors about nutrition.
Because it's being
I understand why, but I'm just saying.
Because you realize
wild,
doctor just means teacher. That's all it means. So you can have a doctorate in anything. You can be a philosopher and be called doctor because you're a teacher of philosophy. So they're a teacher of pharmaceutical drugs. They're here to prescribe you a drug. And every time that they prescribe you a drug, the money go back to the Carnegie and the Rockefeller and the J.P. Morgan Bank Foundation, because bankers is who created the pharmaceutical industry.
D. Rockefeller and the General Education Board encouraged vocational education during the years of 1880 to 1925. So that fits with you.
See? They didn't only create the Educational School Board, they created the medical board. They created and revamped all of your colleges. So if you go to any school in America and in Germany, you are learning the mindset of John D. Rockefeller and how to serve his family forever. John D. Rockefeller and his family, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the DuPonts, all of these different people, the Kissingers, these are all the bloodline. These are the same people. They just changed their names. They're actually from German, and then they converted over to Judaism. So they tell you that they're the Jews, but they really are Germans, and they are soul capturers. Until you get out the matrix, you're going to be serving them for lifetimes until you understand who these people are. And these people trace back into the Knights Templars, and they trace back into the Phoenician foundations all the way in Africa. These are ancient bloodlines of people. And to my knowledge, not to sound like spookism, they're not even humanoids. And this is the truth, man. These people were born into power, man. That's the facts. So that's the story of the pharmaceutical drug industry.
Kol Halo Yahweh, Bashem El Shai, Bashem Dash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who do rule well. Shalom to you of us who are hopeful. Shalom to the elect. No regularly scheduled intro today. I do prefer using the Gadite flutes, though, because of how effective music is in retaining information. But the others are right. Anything more comes off as entertainment, and that's not what we're here for. In any event, let's open with this. Psalms, the 94th chapter, Psalms 94 and 20, because it says this: Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee? Speaking to the nation of Israel, starting with the elect of Israel and you, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians. And secondly, those of you scattered amongst the heathen, especially those of you who may enjoy some of the benefits of privilege because of the color of your skin, your so-called race, which we know race to be a social construct, or your phenotype. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? In layman's terms, can you Israelites, myself included, of course, who this book of the law we call the Holy Bible and the set-apart scriptures was written for, can you trust, find comfort in, or expect any reasonable sort of help from this corrupt government which consists of the technocrats, these eggheads that are behind the scenes in Washington pushing levers and pressing buttons? These same gentlemen here, and I use the term lightly, being they are base men that currently rules over us, especially one whose laws are designed to destroy and displace you, to bring you sorrow and grief. A couple of weeks ago, I went into a lot of the information brought out by the gentleman in the opening clip. For those not in the know, he goes by the name of Yaki Awakened, I believe, who I've done a couple of lessons on the information he's brought out. He is a biochemist and proclaimed master herbalist. I believe he studied under the late Dr. Sebi. Time and time again, you'll hear him quote some scripture. I'm pretty sure he listens to we Israelites. Not too sure what camp he follows, be it GMS or what have you, especially with those dreads and that Hamza talisman hanging from his neck. For those not in the know, the Hamza, the pendant in the shape of a hand with an eyeball sticking out of it, originated with the Phoenicians, aka the Canaanites, who were the children of Ham, and is associated with a so-called Middle Eastern goddess. Nevertheless, everything he said concerning this devil Esau here, starting with the international bankers and the global elite on down, it's all fact, no fiction, no deception was detected here. Okay, as I was saying, I did a lesson called Weapons of Mass Instruction, going into these very same facts. As far as the witchcraft and the detriment behind these corporate manufactured pharmaceuticals, I've done that a plethora of times. Speaking more to the effects of the so-called education and the public school system, as it's still pretty fresh here. You have someone else speaking to it being all about indoctrination and the programming of our young. Again, Esau has no need for innovative free thinkers unless he himself creates them to carry out his specific agendas. His desire has nothing to do with inspiring the next generation or leaders or lighting a fire under the next Tesla. He needs followers and serfs, i.e. employees and lackeys that are dumb, deaf, blind, and are satisfied with remaining obedient, whose only desire is to toil away in making and keeping him rich. Okay? Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? What should come to the mind is the prison industrial complex, another industry that fills the pockets of the 1%, and all the so-called blacks and browns who fill the prisons and jailhouses. Something we always talk about as an example is the way in which the police can shoot and kill so-called people of color with impunity. For some reason, mace and tasers aren't good enough. Doesn't seem to work with them, does it? Speaking of pharmaceuticals, wasn't too long ago, a young Jake by the name of Elijah McClain was accosted by the Denver police and then ejected with a sedative called ketamine to subdue him, which did exactly that. only permanently. Elijah McClain ended up dying some days later. Now, the police are a judge, jury, and executioner when they catch you while walking black. Unfair jail sentences handed down from trumped up charges. Trumped up charges based on the unjust laws those who propose to rule over you and I make, simply because of the excess amount of melanin in our skin. Laws made to marginalize you really because they know who we are and who we're supposed to be. It's Isaiah 42 and 22 that says, "But this is a people robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes, and they are hid in prison houses. They are for a prey, and none delivereth, for a spoil, and none saith, Restore." This is how you know who the real Israelites are. Used and forced for free labor, charged and convicted for crimes we didn't commit. We are a people robbed and spoiled, meaning we are hijacked for our nationality and then destroyed as a nation of people. Never mind being placed into captivity as transatlantic slaves, then robbed of our God, of our women and children, our land and our resources. Snared, speaking to Esau's system itself, which was specifically designed to oppress we Israelites. Criminal justice isn't what you think it is. Okay, criminal justice is really justice for the criminals. The root word for criminal is crimson, i.e., the color red. Being caught red-handed is really referring to Esau, Edom. It is we Israelites, we so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians that the wicked Job 9 and 24 prey on. Nahum 3 and 1 is a good precept. Woe to the bloody city, which is America, so-called white establishment who really ain't white, it's red, who came into the possession of native land by way of bloodshed and deceit, see, red-handed, and built it to prominence off the back of and the blood, sweat, and tears built of so-called Negro slaves. It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not. Meaning the spirit and essence of Esau's wicked acts, the bloodletting, the conniving robbery and thievery, the slaughtering of we Israelites as a nation and a people is still prevalent today. It has never left. The only way we can ever be restored is through belief in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, repenting and coming back into remembrance and to this truth. I believe it was J. Edgar Hoover, the first director of the FBI, for those of you late to the supper table, who said, "There will never be another black Messiah unless we create him." Have any of you sat back and asked yourselves, who's the we? Ain't no secret it's the same nations of people, plural, outlined in Psalms the 83rd chapter, with Esau Edom leading the pack with so-called white supremacy. "Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law?" Essentially speaking to the draconian measures being taken via the unjust legislation being written, courtesy of the technocrats and the global elite in their pursuit of a new world order. Okay, the so-called pandemic was a test run. What they got planned next has been tried and tested. They're just waiting for the right time to execute. Nevertheless, and I didn't intend for this to be too long, let's close with this. Let's go to Isaiah the 10th chapter, Isaiah 10 and 1. Personal reminder, if you will, because it says this: woe, woe meaning destruction, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and that write grievousness which they have prescribed. The Hebrew word here for decree is kakakt, and it means to enact, to appoint, to engrave, to inscribe, scribe meaning to write. So destruction unto them that, Salakia, enact, that appoint, that engrave, that write what? Unrighteous statutes, unrighteous laws, unrighteous ordinances, unjust rules, unjust legislation that is grievous. In the Hebrew, it is the same word for mischief, meaning sorrow, trouble, worry of the mind, if you will, wickedness. And here's the point: to those which they have been prescribed, meaning these unjust laws were written for you, Israel, not those who rule over you, specifically for you. Isaiah 10 and 2, to turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people, meaning to disenfranchise, that widows may be their prey and that they may rob the fatherless. Any one of you who have ever been in trouble with the law or been accused or charged with an indictable crime even knows how costly legal representation can be. Never mind the stress and how time-consuming it can all be. It's time you'll never get back, especially if you're wrongly convicted. And what will ye do in the day of visitation, and in the desolation which shall come from far? To whom will ye flee for help, and where will ye leave your glory? Meaning, what will you do when Yahweh comes to visit the earth through Yahweh Shai and plead with the enemy for all their abominations and their wickedness? Where will you leave your glory? Meaning, who will you flaunt your credentials to? I.e., I'm CEO of this, I'm prime minister of, I'm president of that. Isaiah 10:4, without me they shall bow down under the prisoners, and they shall fall under the slain. For all this his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. Ergo, without Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, many of you are going to fall into subjection under Esau Edom if you don't repent. The scriptures tell us the death toll out here is going to be astronomical when pardon the pun, when the Lord returns in those chariots, in those so-called UAPs and UFOs. For all these instances of robbery, for all the deceit, all the abominations, all the death and destruction, Yahweh's anger cannot be quelled, okay? And you, Esau, you got a lot to pay for. In any event, it's that time, Israel, especially those of you who are teeter-tottering on the line here. Get your houses in order. The Lord is on his way. So stay strong, Israel. Stay circumspect. Fast and pray. Pray without ceasing, because we are almost home. Call halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Through the power and spirit, I hope you are edified. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who teach us 100% truth and rule well. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Remember, no tests, no yab, and damn sure, don't take that C to the H, to the I, to the P. Shalom, Yasharallah. Shalom to the elect.